ever read a great book and been excited enough about the ideas in it to want to underline sentences or highlight sections or even write notes in the margin? Well, me too, all the time. Almost every day I come across thoughts that spark an interest or capture my imagination. Ideas that I just know are worth remembering and acting on. But let's say I read a book a year ago. How much of that information could I accurately recall and communicate clearly to you today? How about if I read that book 2 years ago or 10? Well, my honest answer is that I couldn't communicate or remember much at all, in fact. My brain is more limited than I'd like it to be. You see, I forget things. I forget most things. And the problem isn't just remembering. The problem isn't just recalling information. It's linking ideas across time. Linking information from 6 years ago with information that I stumbled across this morning over coffee. And developing a system which allows ideas to percolate and interact to form coherent and evolving worldviews, to become a better and wiser person. I guess that's the joy of learning. And yet my brain on its own seems so ill-equipped to learn in this way. Well, about a year ago, I stumbled across a way of learning which blew my mind, and it gave me hope for my limited brain capacity. And if you're interested, I'd like to share the idea of developing an external brain system with you. Stay to the end of the video and I'll share some resources which I found particularly useful. Before I go any further, let me answer this question. Why do I need an external brain? Well, I believe that you are what you think. I believe that passionately. And so I tend to think about things deeply. And what I want to know is what my passion is. Why do I do the things I do? Why do communities do the things they do? And why do nations do the things that they do? So in other words, I care about motives, about human nature and worldviews. They're my hobbies. And because I care so much about these things, I've been a student pretty much my whole life. As an adult, I first studied theology and philosophy and loved it. And most recently then, I studied international political theory. And so for close to 10 years, either because I've had to for study or because I'm a bit of a geek, I've read anything from 40 to 100 books a year. And reading this much has been an absolute pleasure. It's been a wonderful and life-changing privilege, and I'm so grateful that I've been able to spend the time reading so much. And because of this study, I've witnessed firsthand how powerful knowledge can be. It has the potential to alter the foundations of your worldviews, to change the trajectory of your life story. It has the power to make you angry and trapped, and we see that every day. It also has the power to bring you joy and freedom. And as I've already said, I believe with all my heart that you are what you think. The information and perspectives that you feed your mind with shape who you are as a person. I believe that thinking seriously is the single most powerful force for change in our lives and in our communities. But the problem is, even though I care deeply about learning and about ideas and about developing a system, a worldview, I have 3 main problems with thinking and learning well. And so the question was, why do I need an external brain? And reason 1 for me is, I forget things, like I already discussed earlier. Think of the countless brilliant ideas I've come across as I've read and studied over the past decade, for instance. Now, in my case, some of those ideas have shaped me, and I'm so thankful to the men and women who have taught me through their writings. I think in pictures, so forgive me, but I see it as if I'm a piece of land on a floodplain, and every now and again the banks of the information river burst as I'm reading and wash over me. And as I finish the book, the floodwaters recede, And some of the sediment, that knowledge, those ideas are left behind, lodged somewhere in my brain, and I am changed to a degree, and I'm grateful for that. But honestly, most of all that potential knowledge that could shape and transform me and my community is mostly lost to me. And the reason for this is quite simply, I forget what I've read. I forget things. And so, to combat this and to try and ensure that these ideas leave a legacy in my brain, I may highlight parts of chapters. I may underline poignant sentences. I may even write notes in margins or in notebooks or scraps of paper, but where are they now? I mean, I've lived all over the world in the past decade, and goodness knows where half of my books are, and certainly don't know where the notes I made are, the notebooks. Highlighting text has done very little good for me. Writing in margins hasn't done me much good either. Okay, I passed my exams and I wrote decent enough essays, but I'm convinced that there is so much more potential power in that information. But as I said, problem number 1, I forget things. Why do I need an external brain? Reason number 2, hoarding is ineffective. So another habit I got into to try and retain as many great ideas as possible was hoarding. Now, I gave it more sophisticated names like cultivating and collecting, but it was just hoarding. I'd use a platform like Evernote, no offense Evernote, to copy text or links or sources until I had pages and pages and pages of clutter. And in reality, they were not much better than the highlights and underlines and margin notes that I'd amassed over the years of studying. They were a random and disorganized mess. And reason number 3 I need an external brain is that I get overwhelmed. The result of my chronic forgetfulness and ineffective hoarding was that eventually I felt overwhelmed and disappointed, because I knew the books I'd read contained valuable information that, if linked with other thoughts, could help me form better ideas and a more mature worldview to become a better and wiser person. But the vast majority of all that potential power that all that knowledge had was mostly wasted. And because of these 3 things, my brain needs help to study, to learn. And it was in this forgetful, overwhelming mess that I stumbled upon the idea of building an external brain. So I've told you why I think I need an external brain system, but let me tell you what I think one is. An external brain system is an antidote to the problems I've just described with my own brain on its own. And here's my definition. An external brain is a physical or digital system of active idea capture, which allows you to link ideas across time and genre and to interact with these ideas in order to develop and create your own ideas. Now, I first came across this concept about a year ago in this book, How to Take Smart Notes by Dr. Zonka Ahrens. This book is in the top 10 list of most significant books I've ever read. Now, that might surprise you because essentially it's a book about note-taking, but there we are. This book, building on the example of a German social scientist called Niklas Luhmann, explains in detail the reasons for and method of constructing an external brain. Now, I think it's worth discussing this book further, so I plan to make an overview video of this book and describe it in detail. But for now, here's the big idea. Niklas Luhmann, over many decades, built for himself a physical collection of over 90,000 single thought notes, and he used a numerical linking system to link thoughts from thousands of sources. In effect, he built his own personal knowledge network. He created an interconnected web of ideas without having to rely on his memory. He built himself a second brain. And so, over coffee in the morning, Luhmann could, if he wanted to, pick a topic from his written notes, go to the box which contained all the notes on a given subject, and follow the thread of interconnected note cards and use his external brain to view all the linked notes connected to whichever topic he was interested in that morning. I don't know how that sounds to you, but for me, that is so powerful. It's profound in its possibilities. If I chose a subject now that I have an opinion on, let's say the rise of populism in Europe, and I tried to recall all of the individual ideas that I've collected over the past decade on this topic, and I tried to identify how these ideas are all linked, and then tried to articulate my thoughts in a clear and coherent way right now, I probably couldn't, to be honest with you. But Luhmann could have, because he had his external brain to rely on. And Luhmann, Dr. Ahrens, and now many other people across the world are utilizing external brain systems using lots of different tools to make notes, to link ideas, and to create original work. And I think there are three broad stages to building an external brain system. And the first is active capture. We are bombarded by information from the moment we wake to the moment we fall asleep, and most of it is just noise. But some of it is worth capturing and pondering and applying to our lives. The problem is our memories, at least my memory, is unreliable, and scraps of paper, random highlights, and hoarding articles or quotations are either lost or become an overwhelming mess. Developing an external brain system allows you to sift through the noise and to deliberately capture meaningful information and to create a permanent home for it, a place where you can come visit it time and time again and reflect on it. And the second stage to creating an external brain system is linking, and this is crucial. An external brain is a system which allows you to construct a network of valuable ideas and to link these ideas together. And linking is so important to learning and becoming wise. No subject, in my opinion, can be understood in isolation or in a vacuum. All other information is really related to a vast web of other information. Now, I recently read a great book by the ex-finance minister of Greece called Yanis Varoufakis. The book is about the EU financial crisis of 2008 on onwards. And while we wouldn't agree on much politically speaking, for what it's worth, I think he does a fantastic job of understanding and articulating how history and theological worldviews shaped the EU community and directly contributed to the EU financial crisis. I think this is exciting. In other words, he understands that an economic crisis in 2008 cannot be properly understood without understanding the significance of the ongoing influence of 17th century Reformation theology on the people and institutions of the EU today. I think that's fantastic. He understands that information, even contemporary subjects, are linked with a whole host of network of other information. And building an external brain system allows you to link ideas in this way. It encourages linked thoughts to interact and helps you to make connections across genres of information and to develop an evolving and maturing worldview or bank of knowledge. And the result of creating this external brain system is creation, and this is the third stage. As you cut through the noise and actively capture ideas, and then link meaningful ideas across time and genre, you'll develop mature and original ideas in whichever field you're interested in. In other words, you'll create. Now, note-taking, as I used to understand it in my student life, is copying, summarizing, and regurgitating. Very little room for creativity and originality, and there's some merit to that, but it comes to a point where consuming and regurgitating just fails to be satisfying anymore, and so creation becomes the driving force of study. And a proper external brain system is radically different from my student days. It's a system which naturally makes room for ideas to collide from surprising sources sometimes. And as they interact and link together, mature worldviews and original ideas are born. And so there you have it. I need an external brain system. I need help because I forget most things. Hoarding is ineffective, and I get overwhelmed and disappointed. And so the antidote to this, I would argue, is to build an external brain system, which will allow me to actively capture ideas, link ideas to form knowledge networks, and create original ideas. Thank you so much for listening to all of this. In my next videos, I'll walk through my thoughts on how to build an external brain system and to point you in the direction of what I think are the most useful tools and resources to help you in your external brain journey. If that's something you're interested in, then subscribe to this channel and watch this space. In the meantime, How to Take Smart Notes by Zonke Ahrens is available to buy online, and Dr. Ahrens has generously made the first chapter of his book available to download on his website. If you're interested in purchasing the book, there's also a link that you can follow to get your own copy today.